It took an act of rebellion to allow Nadia Levitt access to her full adoption story. As is the case for many adoptees, processing that story has taken a long time. In her case, it led her to start a podcast in Australia where she lives to help herself and others like her come to terms with how adoption has affected their lives. Find out where Nadia's story has taken her this time on Adoption Uncovered. Well, hi there. If you could just start out telling me who you are and how you're connected to adoption.
Well, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. It's just, an honor to be able to share my story and to be able to link up with other people, not only in Australia, but all around the world, which I think is really fantastic. So first of all, my name is Nadia Levitt and I live in Australia, and I'm the host of the Australian Adoption Podcast, which I launched about 12 months ago now, just over 12 months. And just basically I've been interviewing people all around Australia. And I guess the unique part about me doing this podcast is that I'm doing it as I'm traveling around Australia. So I've got my husband and my two children, and we are living in a caravan at the moment. And we're normally from Sydney, but we've been traveling, from Sydney, and we've done New South Wales, Victoria, Tasmania, South Australia, Western Australia, and now we're in the Northern Territory. So we're kind of on the back end of our trip. We've got about 4 months to go. And basically I had a few interviews that I did prior to leaving, which included my own story. And then I hit the road, and I've been contacting people either online via Zoom or meeting them in person. So the ones that I've met in person have been really spontaneous and amazing. And I've just kind of organized my sort of schedule as I'm traveling around the country to meet up with these people and interview them in their home. So it's been an amazing journey for me, both personally and professionally. So I've just finished my first season. So there's 12 episodes in the first season, and I'm up to working on season 2 of the podcast. So it's
that's wonderful. It's exciting to hear about you bringing these stories to light and what you're finding out.
I think it's been quite empowering, actually. It's not easy to tell your story. You have to be kind of in a really safe space to be able to share your story with someone, to have the ability to really formulate the words. I think for me as an adoptee, I was very quiet about that topic in my life, and I never was able to express how I felt or what I was thinking into words. And so when I started writing, which I highly recommend, is I know that you've got adopted children, you've adopted some children, and I highly recommend they do journaling, so that they're able to kind of make sense of their emotions and their thoughts, and put those thoughts into words. So once I did that, then I was ready to share my story with the world and be comfortable with owning that part of myself and owning my truth in essence. But the truth sort of keeps changing. So that's why I've got my unknown truth as the topic, because what I know now is the truth for me now, but later down the track in a few years' time, you're learning something new or uncovering something new every time. And that's what it's like for most adoption stories, is that it's a lifelong story of unpacking unpacking different things about themselves, and about the world around them.
Nadia spent time in many foster families in her early years before she was finally adopted into a home where her parents were able to nurture her and give her consistent support. What's your adoption story?
Yeah, so my adoption story is basically I was officially adopted when I was 7, and but I was in foster care arrangement with a few families before that, but there was one main family who became my adoptive parents, and they had looked after me since I was 18 months old. So from 18 months to 7 when I was adopted, it was just with that family. So there was a real sense of permanency there, and continuity of love and care and stability and that sort of thing. So but between 0 to 18 months, as far as I'm aware, the kind of the foster care process is the child is looked after for no more than 3 months at a time with a particular family, and that is to prevent attachment to that particular foster care family. Because if the foster care family is sort of just doing it for a temporary solution, I think at the time in sort of 1982 or the 80s that they thought that for that child to be attached and then detached and then attached again and detached, they probably saw that as a consequence of that happening. So yeah, to reduce attachment, I was in foster care 3 months at a time with different foster families, and I'm yet to know who they are. But I do know one foster family who then became a lifelong sort of second mother, let's say. She became my godmother, and my adoptive mother and her were sort of best friends all their lives. And, we went on holidays together. They lived not far away, and so that was a really positive thing for me, that I knew I was in a foster care arrangement, but that foster care family continued their relationship with me right up until she passed away a couple of years ago now. So, yeah, so my story is, I guess it's a quite positive, under the circumstances of having being removed from my birth father, what's happened as a result has been quite positive. So I've grown up in a really stable home, and I've had contact with birth family, both on my father's and mother's side. So I just think it's been there has been a little bit of trauma and hurt around, and just sadness around being, I guess, removed. But because my birth family both have severe mental health issues, it was the right thing to do. So so I've had a really positive experience with foster care and adoption.
Good. Did that fact that you were adopted, did it affect your relationships with friends or your peers growing up, or was it largely something that didn't really come up?
For me, it didn't come up it didn't come up consciously. I think subconsciously there were signs and things there, but it didn't really affect me because I had such a great life. My parents, my adoptive parents, have given me such an amazing opportunity to learn and grow, and um, develop some really strong relationships with people. Um, so things didn't really come up um, until I was about 15. Um, I just I decided to run away from home. Um, and it wasn't even anything serious that had happened. I think I got grounded for something, for staying out late one night or whatever. But then I just felt the urge um, to do something drastic, to make a statement, to then talk about adoption. So it was, I guess, an act of rebellion in a way, but because my parents were so caring and loving, and when I got back, when I came home again after about a week, um, they there was like a bit of an intervention that went on between my parents and my godparents and the teachers and lots of mum's really close friends. And they just said, "Why did you run away?" And I said, "Because I'm adopted." And
Oh,
then that and that sort of prompted them to, I guess, investigate further with the Department of Children's Services, which is now called it's called DCJ now, which is Department of Child, Children and Justice, um, and they that's when the social workers there had said, okay, well, maybe you need to tell her, maybe you need to tell Nadia that she has siblings.
siblings can be awesome and stressful at the same time. When you meet your siblings as a teen and feel compelled to help fill a maternal void in their lives, that can make things even more complicated.
My parents said, "Oh, look, they took me away on a holiday, and then they told me that I had two half sisters and a half brother." Yeah, and then I was really excited about that. So I guess, yeah, when I was 15, I might have felt a little bit unstable, and as a teen, you're sort of that way anyway, where you're feeling a bit unsure of yourself and forming your identity. Um, that it definitely, finding out that I had siblings, put my feet back on the ground, let's say, and I really wanted to find them and get to know them. And as it turns out, my two sisters, they only lived about 10 minutes away. It was just in the next suburb.
So, can you tell me a little more about your decisions to go ahead and meet those siblings of yours? What drove you to that, and how do you feel about that decision?
I wanted to find them as soon as possible. And then just knowing that they were so close. I was 15, turning 16, and then that's when I could drive. And I remember, yeah, pulling up to their house, with my L plates on, and my mum was in the car, and they were sort of these, 8 and 9-year-old girls sort of waiting out the front, and running along the lawn, like back and forward to the house to let, their dad know that I was coming. Um, and yeah, it's a moment that I'll never forget, just getting out of the car and just feeling really nervous and overwhelmed. And I had, by age 15, 16, I had dreamed of having siblings, because being an only child, you kind of crave that, anything to do with, having siblings in the house. And it was quite quiet in my home. So it was just a whirlwind having to get out of the car and see these two little creatures, like, about hip height, and just looking up at me. And then, yeah, and I just felt this overwhelming sense of responsibility as soon as I met them as well. Um, but mainly because they just had their father and there was no mother figure there. So so I just instantly felt that I wanted to be a part of their life and make some kind of positive influence in some way to to kind of create a little family of my own. It's like a different world when you meet birth family, because you have your life, but then you have this other life you have this other life, and it's quite a unique thing to have, where you're kind of living in two worlds, basically. You sort of think, oh, well, that's what my life could have been like if I was living with them, and then, but it didn't happen that way, so I'm living with my adoptive parents. But I was really lucky that they lived so close, and I was just lucky with my age and what I wanted to do, and so I spent a lot of time with them. I think at one point there was I organized like a Tuesday night dinner every night, and I would, this is when I was driving, I'd drive to school, then I would go and play sport, and then I would go and pick them up after I did my sport after school, and then drive them to my place and have dinner, and we'd all sit down and have dinner at the table, and then I'd drop them home.
So when you went in, you immediately went in sort of as the big sister, but also as that mother figure. So you felt that responsibility immediately?
Yeah, I did. And it sort of made me grow up a bit as well. I sort of knew that I had these two sisters that that were leading completely different lives to mine. I think they desperately needed someone to just be that role all the time. I could only do what I could do.
Do you feel like happy with that decision now? Like that's a tough decision to make when you're 15, when you're just a young adult and you're figuring life out and you step into that role. You think it had positive effects for your life?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I have no regrets. I did what I could do with the knowledge that I had and the means that I had. So and I could only do it, I still had to be a kid as well. I still had to kind of grow up and hang out with friends and go out and party and go overseas and have my life as well. So I think they might have a different perspective on how it was, because of it was a bit inconsistent. But on my side, it was I found the whole experience really rewarding, and yeah, and I still want to continue having that relationship with them into adulthood and later on in life as well.
Being a biological mother to her own kids can be a conflicting experience for Nadia. As much as she loves her own kids, it also reminds her of how much her siblings missed out on. Do you feel like starting that nurturing role at that young age is influences how you parent now?
Oh, wow. Yeah. The most interesting thing about my experience and my life is I have two girls that are 19 months apart, and they have very similar, or I can pick similar aspects or characteristic traits that are in my two children that were in my sisters when I first met them. So right now they are 11 and 9, and my two sisters are one year apart. So when I met my sisters, they were 9 and 10, that kind of same age, and I can just see similarities and but also I can see, oh wow, like I was so young when I was trying to have a relationship with them at such a young age, at 15, and they were only 9 and 10. But then yeah, just comparing my two children to being that mother for them, that constant mother for them. There's an element of a bit of sadness around the fact that they didn't have that. So yeah, in a sense, yeah, sometimes at times I feel quite sad that my sisters sort of never grew up with a stable maternal figure, and that the only maternal figure they had was me. And I guess um, I can only say I did my best, but I don't think it was what I think they needed. They definitely needed a lot more.
Nadia's podcast, showcasing stories from those touched by adoption, has been a source of connection for Nadia. Seeing other people interact with their own stories, maybe in ways that were new to them, has been a healing journey for both her interviewees and herself.
Doing the podcast has been an incredible experience for me. I've got a goal to do 5 seasons, and I also work in the yoga space as well, doing a lot of things there with my work in health promotion. So that's been a real positive influence. And going on this holiday with my family for a whole year, just to be able to just take a year off, and travel around Australia and really just get immersed in Australian culture um, and Aboriginal history as well too. We've been visiting lots of sacred sites and doing lots of walking in national parks, and that's all very healing and grounding. So nature is, the best healer of anything. So
Yeah, that sounds wonderful.
It's just been great. Yeah, it's been really good.
Cool. I'd love to hear more about what is it like for you as an adoptee to talk about these other people, to talk to these other people on your podcast. Can it be triggering for you? Is it like connecting? Like, what are the different things that adds to your life?
I don't know if I'd say triggering. It definitely confronts some emotions that go on internally, but mainly the overarching emotion, which is exactly what you brought up, is connection, and that's why it's almost like I'm drawn to it because of that sense of connection to other people, that sense of belonging, that people that have that same, they might not have the same story, but they've got the same bond or the same connection around adoption. So there's a instant line of communication that is different to what you would have with another person, and there's a automatic sense of trust with another person to share those aspects of yourself that you don't usually share with other people. And it's not because you don't share it because you don't think other friends and things would listen. Like, they're happy to listen, but they may not completely get it. And so when you interview people who are in the adoption space, it's almost like um, you've already linking arms with them without even meeting them or speaking to them. You sort of, you link up. It's like, and that's what I wanted to also create, is that sense of online community presence, for someone to share their story that is mainly powerful for them, for where they're at in their self-discovery. In the ideal world, face to face would be my favorite way to communicate with someone, because there's a lot of eye contact and obviously holding space for that person to share. So the ones that I have done face to face have been super powerful and helped that person. So the last one that I did that was face to face, she lives in Sydney, but I said, look, I'm not going to be coming back around. I won't be back in Sydney until next year, February next year. And so she said, oh, I'll come to you. So I said, oh, okay. Well, she's like, oh, where are you? Are you going to be dropping into Broome? And I said, oh, yeah, I'll be in Broome in August. She said, okay, I will fly from Sydney to Broome via Brisbane, and I will come and stay there for a week on a holiday, and you can come over to my hotel and interview me there. And I was like, all right, fantastic. So she's a lady in her 70s. She's a relinquishing mother. So it's a very powerful story. So it was just great to have that face-to-face with her. And she brought her photo album with all of her old photos of herself when she was young. And yeah, it was beautiful. So she was comfortable enough to fly over to Broome to be interviewed by me face-to-face. So that's powerful. And then I got a beautiful message from her after, like lots of messages from her afterwards saying, I feel, what'd she say? I feel like a much stronger person now because of our chat. And, and that makes me feel just so good that I can, have that, share that with that person, and for it to be a positive thing.
Yeah. It's not just that you're putting their stories out there. It's that people need to tell them.
Yeah, I think people want to be seen and heard. And when they do want to be seen and heard, and it is an adoption story, then I would love to hear it. I want them to share what they have, because it's good for them and it's positive for them. Not because they're forced to, not because they feel they have to. It's because they're ready to. They're ready to take that step, that courageous step in their lives to want to share, and then they can go off and do positive things as a result. So there was one girl I interviewed in Adelaide. She'd written a book about her story in the foster care system. She's been in foster care pretty much her whole life, since she was 7 until she was 18. And she wrote a book when she was 15 years old. So I interviewed her, and I'm in contact with all of the people that I've interviewed post-interview as well, seeing what they're doing, what they're up to, just sharing my life with them, and they share their life with me. So and that's definitely what I love getting out of it, is just creating, having people that you've never met before, and then there potentially could be this continual communication with that person throughout, from here on in, just because I've had that interview with them, and I think that's a really good thing. I think the power of connection is really important. It should never be underestimated.
With a second podcast season underway, Nadia is continuing to forge those connections with people in the adoption community. She's not done working through her own experience with adoption either. As her life goes on, her views on her past change. Be a part of this experience by tuning into her podcast, My Unknown Truth, and find links to her podcast on my website, adoptionuncovered.com. And thank you.